All right, everybody. Good morning. It's Friday. It's the 11th of October today. So I've been doing these podcasts, and I've I've done videos training for years, primarily teaching people who've never been in sales, and helping them try to, understand the mindset and the navigate um, through their warm market to get some business done. Okay, which is very difficult. And then I'm not I recruit still, but I only recruit licensed people. Okay, they're already in the industry. It's not. It's just getting them to understand, why being with All Into Life and Mosaic, which is an advisor group, and All Into Life is actually a DBA for the Legacy Life. Okay, same company. Okay, the so it's a whole different thing. So now I'm talking to people about more about um, the strategies, especially the banking strategy, infinite banking strategies. So I'm gonna so in this evolution of explaining these things and how these things work, I'm coming up on some things. Last night there was a conference call with the team, and there's this lady, Dr. Nikisha Ware, and she, or she's got a PhD. She's not a medical doctor. She's in academics, right? Very vivacious woman, right? And she was doing a ton of marketing on TikTok, and something changed. She got frustrated with the quality of people. There was no relationship. There was no value. I mean, they could just like ghost you like that, right? And that happens with people too, though, right? Right. So she's talking about how she's, you know, getting in with these uh, professional organizations, and of course she's very vivacious, bringing them cookies or brownies or you know treats, right? They'll all love her. They all love her, right? And that's she's changed her. She's evolved in her marketing prop or strategy. Okay, so it got me thinking. When how I need to I need to adjust my marketing strategy, and this guy Danny Kravitz. Now Danny's very well known. Danny's in the top 1% in in the industry. I've known Danny for a long time. Danny always says, it's really hard to make a saver. Okay, somebody who doesn't save, they don't have that habit. So he looks for people who've got a 401k. Now, Dr. Ware talked about all these people that she's from academia that have their 403b, their TSPs, and they're saving there, but they think that's it. They think that's all I need. And I've talked to those people. My girlfriend is a swim coach, and so a lot of other swim coaches are teachers, right? And they a lot of them are good savers. And that's something. My mom was a good saver. My mom was a teacher. Okay. But all they know is that I got a 401k. All right. Or I got I got my TSP, or I got my, 403B. Right. And, but that doesn't mean nothing. Okay. There's people that get started and all they have is they have their money in the money market account in their 401k, which isn't getting hardly as good a return as their a bank CD or savings, right? But they got a 401k. The 401k is not an investment. It's a blanket of tax deferral. Okay, so whatever goes in there, you don't pay tax on, goes tax deferred. So when you take that money out, that's when Uncle Sam's going to want their pound of flesh. That's when you pay them, and usually it's more money because the money grew. Now you're paying them back more, than you would have paid if you would have paid the tax up front. Okay, but there's strategies for it. I remember talking to a guy, an engineer, got in the business. First thing he did is roll over his 403B. All right, and he started making a bunch of money. He's like, God, I'm going to get killed in taxes. So then he just, put that into an annuity and got the tax write-off and the deferral on the contribution. Okay, so, he's going to pay later, but he's going to be old. His kids are going to pay later because he's going to pay. Okay, so that's how that works. All right. But my point is this. Okay, you're qualifying people. Okay, it's what was I at? I was at the boxing show the week, last week, right? And everybody I sat, well, weirdest thing, everybody I sat around me was from Virginia. Like 3 or 4 people from Virginia sitting around me, right? That was something. One of them, I told him my address where I used to live, and he knew right where I used to live in Virginia Beach, right? And when that's something, rapport gets built like quickly, really fast. When you've been where somebody else is from, or where they've been, whether it's Honduras or Venezuela. I used to go to Venezuela all the time. One of my favorite places to go. I used to be a free fall jump master, and everybody loved free fall skydiving. So when Bill Clinton came into office, we didn't have all the assets we used to have. So whenever we got a plane, we would maximize that plane. So if the platoon had need, for mobility, they needed to get downrange, which means to another country, whether it was Colombia or Venezuela or Ecuador. Usually those are where they went primarily. We would, if the advanced team, to give me the lat and long of the airfield that they landed at, and the prevailing winds, the direction of the prevailing winds, and I'd run over to the Air Force Combat Controllers, and they would generate a drop zone survey. So then when it came time for the rest of the platoon to go, I'd go with them because they needed a free fall jump master, and usually they only had one, so that you need 2, and I'd go with them, and we'd take 2 C-130s, offload all the pallets, boats, motors, trucks, whatever, and then put our parachutes on. I'd give a quick brief. That first plane would fly 4,500 feet. I'd spot the jump. We'd all jump out. That plane would keep flying to Colombia, flying to Bogota. Then we'd jack up and pack our parachutes, get back in the plane, and the second plane would fly up 12,500 feet. I would spot the jump, but I'd stay with the plane because I had to come back to Panama. But they were doing the mail run, so they'd fly to Colombia. Now, this was a crew from the United States. They would buy a whole pallet of Colombian coffee for their coffee mills back in the States. And they would buy emeralds, rubies, and sapphires for their wives or their girlfriends, because that's what they mine them at, and they're more cost effective to get them that way, right? And then they would go from there. They'd fly to Montevideo, Uruguay. They would trade coffee for beef. The beef in Argentina and Uruguay, it's like all graze fed. It's like, oh, it's just amazing, right? And then they would fly that. Then they would go to Santiago, Chile, and they would trade coffee for wine. So the only place in the whole world that there's the old world grapevines, originally, from Europe, from from France and Italy, is in Chile. They transplanted them from Europe to the New World in California and Chile. Some plague killed them all off, and all those old world grapevines off in Europe. Then some bug killed them all off in California. The only place left where the old world grapevines are is in Chile, right? Oh yeah, in Uruguay they'd buy buy leather jackets and leather mini skirts, or fur coats. They'd buy those because they're in abundance there. Every other shop is selling leather and furs in Uruguay, in Montevideo, Uruguay. So they're like Marco Polo flying around and fly back, right? And fly back to the United States. And so that was the coolest thing. And I'm like, man, wouldn't that be great if you had enough money? You're like, hey, we're out of coffee. Charter a plane and go on a trip, or that would be fun. The So that was a great experience. I did that a couple times, right? But I never got to go. I didn't get to see a lot of things. And I joke around that I've been like 33 different countries, but it's always been the armpit of the country where I go, right? And when I start talking to people, if somebody doesn't have a desire or a dream, like whenever we want to talk about travel, right? I tell that story. Okay, people start telling you where they want to go, or things like that. All right, and if somebody doesn't have a desire for anything, you may as well be talking to the wall. Okay, so how do you know if you've got the right qualified person? So first off, they want something more. That's an easy one right there. Okay, they they're not satisfied where they're at. Okay, and if somebody doesn't want anything more, it's really hard. Now I've seen people change. I've seen people adjust. Uh, all of a sudden, it's getting time where they're like, "Oh man, I'm tired of working. Right? I don't want to do this." Then they start saving. Okay, you know when you break things down for people and you show them what it's going to take to get what they want. All right, you start out, and then you can show them how they could expedite that. Oh, I love this right now. Right now, I gave the speech um, at Toastmasters about time management, and in they and the big thing was, I'm expounding on it right now, was making sure I'm talking to the right person, right? And I mentioned that I used to work for a debt management company, and on the card it said get completely out of debt, including your mortgage, in as little as 5 to 10 years without increasing your monthly payments. And people would ask me, "How do you do that?" And I'm like, "Well," I started trying to tell them, and then once that they figured out what I was up to, they'd disqualify me and walk away. I didn't like that. So then I started figuring out that if I don't answer their questions right there on the spot. I'm like, tell you what, there's a lot of graphs and charts. I got to get information. Tell you what, you know, why is it important for you to get out of debt? And they tell me, and then we schedule an appointment. If they're like, "Oh no, I just want to know," I'll tell you what, you know, if you know anybody that might want to pay off their mortgage faster, right? And you set me a point with them, we'll kill two birds with one stone. They'll get help, and then you'll learn, okay? And that might benefit because you'll tell other people, right? And and I didn't waste my time, but they could lead me to somebody. So those are good things. So back to making sure you're dealing with the right people. Oh man, there's a mindset in this country, um, and it's it's crazy. Um, I grew up with it. That money is bad. People with money are bad, right? They're not good people. And why my mom used to work as a maid, her first job out of high school. She was the maid for the heirs of the Old Crow Whiskey Company, and they're all a bunch of alcoholics. And so she like hide all the alcohol, you know, and then they started drinking her vanilla extract. So she started buying non-alcoholic vanilla extract, right? But because of that, and these people, they weren't the ones that built the Old Crow Whiskey Company. They were the heirs, right? And they didn't get to do nothing. And so my mom has this, she doesn't like wealthy people. Um, when I was making a lot of money in the mortgage business, my mom was kind of hostile to me. And I'm like, when, you know, when she's doing better than me, my mom's nicer to me. It's just kind of crazy how that works, right? Then come to find out, my mother literally grew up across the kitchen table from Michael Moore, the the producer that does all these, you know, documentaries, you know, you know, socialist minded propaganda. Um, Her cousin is Michael Moore's PR guy. Isn't that crazy? I knew the guy. He's just a little bit older than me, like not much older than me at all, right? Um, and so I'm like, oh wow, I had to grow up with that my whole life, right? But my dad was the opposite. My dad was exactly the opposite. When they say opposites attract, boy, that was a sure enough example of that. My dad, his heritage was actually Jewish. My dad's mother was I'm named after Reuben Snyder, my great grandfather. My dad's great grandmother was Huron Indian. Okay, German Jew and Huron Indian. Okay, so my dad had that mindset. He was so tight that he squeaked. He's the one that taught me about um, the difference between good debt and bad debt. If he needed to buy a piece of equipment like a tractor or a combine, which is smart for him to work and save to buy that piece of equipment cash. With inflation, just keep it this far out of his reach. If that was the case, he'd finance that piece of equipment, put it to work to make more money to pay that loan off faster. He'd say, you got to think yourself as being the egg business, your money's your chickens. You don't want to eat your chickens. Okay. And then when I got my first 401k, it was the peak of the .com. And I'm like, what goes up's got to come down. So I didn't put my money in QQQ or NASDAQ stocks. I bought Walmart, Home Depot, and Disney. So my dad's like, no, I didn't even know my dad could read, right? And he's like, you know, Home Depot's good. People are going to shop there whether they bought a house or they're selling a house. They're always fixing their houses up. So that's good. He says, Walmart's good. They got good prices. People shop there, especially during recession. He says, but your real buy is Disney because the Asians are heavily vested in entertainment sector and their economy's hit the skids. So they're selling it. So that's on sale. I'm like, Dad, you got cable? You watching Bloomberg? How do you know this? He's like, I read this. I read the financial news every day. I gotta find out is Russia buying or selling? Do I need to grow corn or do I need to grow wheat? What I just told you, I read that in Mechanics Illustrated. Okay. So that was my dad. Okay. So this is again all about qualifying. When you're talking to somebody that pays attention to their money and their finances, they'll tell you. Okay, straight up. That's number one. All right. Now, there's something called NLP, neuro linguistic programming. So, like 70% of the population is visual. If you're not showing them something, you know, you can talk until you're blue in the face. You got to show. I should have made a PowerPoint, and I may have to do that later, right, for this. But 70% of the population is visual. You got to show them something, all right. Then there's like 20% of the population is kinesthetic, so they weigh all their senses equally. They internalize them, and how they feel determines how they make their decisions. And then there's like 7% of the population that are auditory. So that only comes like what 97%. I don't know what the 3% is. Right? The but the auditory, like my son is so visual that he can tell what quadrant of your brain you're accessing when he's talking to you. That's how he can tell if you're lying or not. Helps him in sales greatly. Okay. Where me, all I care is you're looking at me when I'm talking to you. Okay. I'm listening. I'm hearing the inflection in your voice. If you said something a year ago and you contradict what you said a year ago, I'll remember it. I'll hear it. And I'm like, oh, are you lying to me then or are you lying to me now? Right? That's how, I listen for things that you're saying, the way you say things. I can pick up on the tone, whether there's something wrong or not. Okay. So, I'm auditory. Okay. When I first got into sales, I was a venture capital broker on the phone, and these other agents would say, "Oh, he had the voice." I'm like, "What voice? Was it a southern accent? Was it a deep voice? What are you talking about?" Well, all of a sudden, 1 month I got like 4 deals on the board, and I'm looking at every one of them. What they had in common? And the only thing they had in common is I got them excited. So that enthusiasm, you listen for that enthusiasm to what you're talking about. So I start talking about these banking strategies. If somebody doesn't own a house, it's really hard to talk to them about using these family banking strategies to pay your mortgage off faster and save at the same time. They don't own a house. They don't have a mortgage. All right. If they're you go through their finances and you see that they're eating out all the time. They spend a ton of money eating out, and it's not because they don't want to cook, right? They need fellowship. They need to be around people. They're not getting it at home because they're the only one home, right? So that's why they're doing it, right? But what's the quality of that interaction with the waiter or waitress or the person behind the counter, or you're making the order right? They're not. They're not getting what they want. They're just spending more money, okay? And that whole industry is taking advantage of that, okay? But I can see that when I'm looking at somebody's finances, they need the fellowship, okay? Let's see what else. You can where I'm at my Toastmasters group, they're full of people that are engineers in the oil and gas industry, and they talk about all the time about global warming, right? And I'm like, I not because I wanted to. Somebody that I was, you know, working prospecting, that was their thing. But primarily about the evils of the chemical fertilizers, NPK. After World War II, these big munitions companies were like, we're like, oh no, our income's going to stop. Like, nah, we'll use the nitrogen for fertilizer. Well, it's the wrong kind of fertilizer. It actually saps the nutrients out of the soil and the plants. And so after 90 years of using this type of fertilizer, we have to eat like 8 times more produce, more food than we did 60 years ago to get the same nutrient content. Okay. Hence the obesity problem we have in the United States. Okay? And people have to eat more and more and more to get the same amount of nutrients. Okay. And but what happens is not only does it sap the nutrients and out of the soil and the plants, but when it rains and it runs off, it runs into the rivers and streams and the lakes and the oceans. It causes the plankton or the algae to super grow, and then it dies really fast and it sucks all the oxygen out of the water. And then anything that can't swim away dies. There's huge dead zones in the Indian Ocean. Okay, from these coral reefs that were just blooming with life. They're just dead coral now, and that's why. And so 70% of the carbon dioxide in the air gets scrubbed through the plankton in the ocean. There's the increase of carbon dioxide in the air isn't from internal combustion engine automobiles. It's from the runoff and killing the plankton in the ocean that scrubs 70% of the carbon dioxide in the water, right? Anyway, how'd we get here? Because that's what they talk about all the time. At my Toastmasters group, they talk about global warming. Guy's in the petroleum engineer, right? And he's promoting that thing that's going to put him out of business. Isn't that crazy? Or they're barking up the wrong tree. Okay. So, but my point is that people flat out will tell you what's important to them. Okay. That's a real easy way to qualify people. Okay. You look at what they do for a living. That'll tell you. Okay. If they're nurses, odds are they're pretty empathetic. They want to help people. Like, why would you be a nurse if you didn't want to help people, right? Your engineer, you like to make things or fix things, right? They may be interested in cars, right? God, who was I talking to? Oh yeah. Brian showed me this place. They restore cars, and they've been the coolest. It's an awesome place. They'll get it all done. You can find an old, 1969 Roadrunner. You got $35,000. They'll restore it for you, right? And you'll have your dream hot rod. Isn't that crazy? But why would he show me that? Well, because it was probably important to him, right? Those are important things to him. He had to show that to me. It was awesome, though. It was way cool. So my point is, people will tell you what's important to them. Okay. Where you go, where you go shopping. You can see a huge difference in the kind of people that go to Whole Foods, Sprouts, and Trader Joe's compared to the people who shop at Walmart. It's a different person, man. It's a different person. They're fit and in shape. Why is that, right? It's just amazing, right? Oh yeah. Something else. The pretty girls usually have a daring, bold man. Okay, why is that? Because only the daring guys will ask the pretty girls out. Okay, isn't that something? Right. So it's almost a sure. I put that to the test. Saw this pretty girl in Sprouts, and I just like, so what does your fiance do? Are you married? No, she's engaged. He's a fireman. Sure enough. Right. And interesting, just interesting. Um, when you come to know that, a lot of things uh, will open up to you when you become familiar with them, right? So the understanding who you're dealing with can get you in a better market. Um, people, and then we got to get there. We got in a situation. We had like 6 years left before the government's out of money. Currently, like 80% of the federal budget goes to cover entitlements, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, interest on the debt. And there's literally statistically 880,000 Americans who are currently living on subsidies by the government have to come off of that. They have to replace it with an income either from a business or their investments or a combination of both of $50,000 a year. 880,000 Americans that are living off the government have to make that change. They've got to replace their income with an income stream that's not dependent on the government from a business or their investments. So that's what I help people do. Why, the wildest thing I started the My Business is Your Business website over 10 years ago, probably 11 or 12 years ago now. And my idea was that if I got a business client and I promoted what they did on my website, then they'd make more money. They had more money to do something with me, and it wasn't working, right? So then I changed that. So now I have tools. I talk about the family banking strategies, the infinite banking strategies, the synchronistic banking strategies. I promote Gusto for payroll and HSA administration. I've got Score Navigator on there. That's something cool. I got a week to go, or that'll update. I got somebody I'm helping them with their credit, and their score is probably going to pop like 90 points, right? And I want to be able to show the results of that using Score Navigator, right? So that's exciting. There's a NACA on there. If you don't own a house, you're first time home buyer, they don't care what your credit looks like. They want to see like 3 years tax returns. They'll help you. You got to adhere to their financial system. They want you to start, applying these principles, which is all good. And so, and they'll get you 100% financing. No money, you get a 4-unit. You let them know, and the other 3 live in 1 unit, and let the other 3 units qualify you. That's something, right? On NACA. So if you got a house, then now you got a house, now you got a mortgage. I can show you how to pay that off in less than 10 years with these family banking strategies. That's what I got it on there for. Okay. So there's all these videos. Like I'll be putting the video of this podcast up on there so people can reference it. All right. So back to qualifying people, right? Making sure you're with like-minded people. Right? It's like magic when you're around like-minded people. Like every time, I swear, when I used to go to boxing shows in San Diego, I'd always get mortgage business out of that. Every time. Went to the fights this last time, I got like 4 people that are interested in what I got. Right? Oh yeah, and then also, I got brought here to be the director of the folk rehab program for veterans and ex-felons. And the people behind that left and took all their information with them, right? And then I'm like, I gotta, so what I like talking to trade schools, because when they graduate with their credential, whether it's welding or HVAC or barber college or cosmetology school, they'll make more money than they ever made before. And when they talk to me, I've talked to them about how taxes affect your money, and inflation affects your money, and market volatility affects your money. What you can do about it, they'll think of me, right? And I went to this one place. It wasn't a trade school; it was a co-op. Okay, and so people go through that. They learn the advanced skills for welding and CAD drawing and all of that. And they like, you start an apprenticeship program. I'm like, when am I have time for that? So I go to church and I talk to this guy, Ryan. Okay. And he said, we're starting an apprenticeship program. And so, all right. So I'm like looking for people to get into this apprenticeship program. Well, TXRX Labs would be the best source for them, right? But also people from the military. So I found all these people from the military, the U.S. vets, the Tunnels to Towers people. There's a bunch of them. The PTSD USA people. They are all a pool of veterans, right? And but you go through the pipeline, right? And they get through the advanced training through TXRX Labs, and then bam, they come into the apprenticeship program, and then they got to get jobs. So I'm talking to people that want to hire them, through Jason Cisneros, right? He's got businesses that would dying to hire these guys, right? That have this, they've got the trade school, the advanced training, and now the apprenticeship experience. They would definitely be hired, right? Well, guess what? They're going to make more money. Right, and I'm going to be the one, helping them out. And so but if until that's happened, there's other apprenticeship programs, right? I'm not letting people wait. There's other companies. I just talked to some yesterday. This one here, Dynamis Power Solutions. They're hiring these people with these skills for the oil and gas. They service the oil and gas industry here in Houston. So these are all things, here's my point. You got to listen and hear what people want and what they need. All right. And if I can show them what I got, it's going to help them, then we're together. Okay. We can make that happen. Now, it's going around, you're asked to get to your elbow sometimes, right? But there's a lot of people that want to make more money, okay? And not everybody wants to get into the financial services business. Okay? So if I know where they need to go to get that knowledge that they want to have, then they can make more money. Then they want to do more. Everybody wants to do better with their money, right? When you find out that, man, you can get like 47% on your money, who wouldn't want to do that? Okay, so I got to get my licenses so I can offer that product, but I got people that can do that for me. So anyway, the dealing with people that have the right focus or the right interest, understanding. I mean, this needs to happen. We got to get people in their own businesses. That's where Jason Cisneros comes in, right? There's all this money sitting on the sidelines. It's this private capital looking for a home. And they don't want to go to venture capital. Even though that's what it is, they want a sure thing, but they want a greater return. It's like 4 to 6 times greater return in startup businesses than it is in the stock market, but it's riskier. Okay, so when you've got a system that keeps you from failing, all right, there's going to be money looking for your business. Okay, they want that. They want that success. Okay? Why wouldn't they? Right? So that's where Jason Cisneros comes in. But there's a whole and the whole industry, the whole world, there's people leaving the real estate business, getting and becoming success coaching, right? Doing success coaching, right? A whole bunch of people leaving the real estate business, but in the mortgage business. Doesn't make any sense, but that's what they're doing. Okay. So that's what's happening. All right. It's a trend. Okay. There's the real estate bubble is more than past its time to pop, and the stock market bubble is more than past its time to pop. Right? There's all this private equity that's waiting for those crashes to buy low and sell high. Okay. Right. But they're also looking for businesses. They're looking for businesses that are sustainable. They're looking for businesses, and all the time, been doing it my whole life. There's so many business owners that totally understand their service or their widget that they're selling, like they know it like nobody else does. But learning how to manage their money from that, they have no idea. I can't tell you how many times I've had to go through somebody's personal account and separate the spending from business to personal, so they could do a P&L, so they get the loan, so they can expand their business. They're just doing what they do, right? They know it makes money that they do it, right? And nobody's helping them. I'll do that, right? And I have other people that'll do it for them too. I got systems with it. That's why I got what I got on MyBusinessIsYourBusiness.info. Okay. So I post this video I do every week for the podcast. All right. So looking for those indicators, basically you'll hear that enthusiasm. I'm auditory, so I'm listening for people getting excited for what I'm talking about. They want to, pay off their 30-year mortgage in less than 10 years, paying the same they're paying right now. I got the solution. All right. If they want to, they don't have money to save for their future, but they have a mortgage, I got a solution for that. Okay, using that same money to build to their future. Okay. That's something people don't realize they have. What they need is nobody they're talking to understands how to do it. Oh, I know how to do it. All right. Well, this is the podcast for this week, Friday. All right. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend.